Hello, welcome to the Infinite Campus Basics for your new coordinator orientation training. I am Russell Jones. I am going to be one of your trainers. I am the Region 9 Regional Program Manager.
Hello, my name is Heather McCarty, and I'm the Regional Program Manager for Region 2.
So we'll be with you for the next hour or so as we dive into the world of Infinite Campus to see what it is that you're going to have and your responsibility that you're going to have as a coordinator. So before we begin looking at Infinite Campus itself, at the mechanics of Infinite Campus, let's talk a little bit about our success. Our success as Frisk is we have been around for over 30 years at this point, and one of the biggest successes we've had is our data has been amazing for all these years. We've been able to gather so much information that we're able to give legislators, that we're able to provide to any of our stakeholders that I ask, and a huge amount of that data comes from Infinite Campus. So it comes from the things that you put in every day, whether it be an individual intervention or be a group program. It's things that the things that you're doing that are so amazing for us at the division level. So when we look at Infinite Campus, we have a couple of goals. Our first goal that we have is to have our data be consistent and to have it be verifiable. So it's something that we're able to look at and being consistent that it means the same thing for us, no matter where we are in the state of Kentucky, whether it be Paducah or whether it be Pikeville, Covington or Corbin, Lexington or Louisville, that all that information is exactly the same, that all of those things that you do on an individual intervention, all of those pieces that you can pull from, that they all mean the same. And the same thing with group programs, that everything that we would pick, everything we choose, would be the same, and we would be consistent across the state so that our message to our stakeholders is consistent, so that a basic need means the same thing in every place that we would go. The second thing we want to look at is we want to make sure that our information is verifiable. We want to make sure that being verifiable, we want to make sure that it happened on a particular day at a particular time. We want to make sure that all these things happen in a particular place, in a particular order, and that you can go back and see all of the things that have happened in the center, and that all of the things that the center is doing is accurately being reflected in comparison to the work that you're doing. One thing when we look at Infinite Campus and we look at the data that we collect, we are collecting interventions, or we're counting interventions and not people. When we're looking at the intervention, an intervention can happen, multiple interventions can happen for one person, not just every time that there's an intervention, it's one-to-one. You're going to, throughout your career as Frisk, you're going to do way more interventions than the people that you actually come in contact with. Your interventions are going to be something that is going to be the linchpin of what it is that you do, the things that you do for families, the things that you do for students. Those are going to be those interventions that you're going to put in, and that are going to be calculated for you. A lot of times you'll hear the word with us. We will use the word intervention. We will use the word referral. We will use the word activity. We'll use the word strategy. No, all those things mean the same thing. But for our purposes today, we're going to try to use the word intervention more than not, because that's the way Infinite Campus defines it. But no, when people are talking and they're talking about, well, how many referrals do you have? A lot of times they're talking about how many interventions have you looked at. So when looking at Infinite Campus, the first thing that we want to know, the first thing that you need to know, is that all information is based upon the household. That is the true foundation of everything that is in Infinite Campus. It's where every student, it's where every family is connected. is through their household. And in the household, you can have data then tied to each specific person in the household. What you will find now as a coordinator, as we've been with Infinite Campus for the amount of years that we have now, what you'll see is sometimes, especially at this point at an elementary school, at a family resource center, you will find that a lot of your parents may also be connected to Infinite Campus. They may have an Infinite Campus connection from when they were in high school. So don't be alarmed if you pull up a parent and it shows a high school beside the parent's name. It doesn't necessarily mean the parent is currently enrolled in high school. It could be something that's happened from a long time ago. Now, before we actually get into looking at anything with this, what we are using today is we are using the Kentucky Department of Education's scrambled SOT for Infinite Campus. So all of the information, while they are real names, all of the information that you find is not real data. None of this is anything that is going to be stealing someone's identity or stealing someone's information of any sort. It is strictly going to be things that has been scrambled and flipped, and KDE uses this as a true testing ground for people that are using Infinite Campus. So before we dive into looking at the individual pieces of Infinite Campus, we do need to talk about the shortcoming. So the true shortcoming of Infinite Campus is because everything is tied to a household, and those households are only people that are in the building. The true shortcoming is being able to identify those students, again, at an FRC level that are birth to 5, those families in training component students. We're not able to capture that information in Infinite Campus because those students are not enrolled in your building. They're not coming to school every day. So what you're going to see is there's no way to track that data. Thus, that's why in another portion of new coordinator orientation, you'll hear about frisk counts, and you'll hear about the unenrolled section of frisk counts. So that is a place where we can now go and document electronically those 0 to 5 students. So let's jump into looking at Infinite Campus. What we're going to do is we're going to look at first at just navigating Infinite Campus itself. So at the top, you'll see several things. Some of these things we're going to use and some we won't. One, we want to point out that you right now are in the message center. This is something that it's the default for Infinite Campus. This is the first place it'll take you to. The message center in some districts is used quite a bit. Some schools may use it quite a bit, and others may not use it at all. It may just be blank, exactly like ours is, and that's okay. This is nothing that is frisk we're going to mandate that you have to do, or this is nothing that is going to be imperative for us, but just know this is the default, and it is a way to go in and that schools can communicate big things to all their staff very quickly if people have Infinite Campus up. But as you look across the top of the screen, you will find some different things, and we're going to talk about some things that right now may not make a lot of sense, but hopefully by the end of the day, they will become clearer to you with things that we're talking about. At the top of the screen, you will find what we affectionately call the hamburger, which is the main menu, which is in the top left corner. So if you click on the main menu, it will bring you up all of the things that you have rights to. When you click on the file, it'll bring you up all the things that you are able to look at in Infinite Campus, and it brings it up in a drop-down menu that you can look at things over on the side. And these are all things, and this is going to be different for everybody that's using the Infinite Campus today. This is going to be something that's completely different for all of you because all of you have different rights according to what your district allows you to have. So there's another way that you can do it, but that you can look at this main menu. So if you go back to the original screen that we have, if you go over, you will see on the far right, you will see in blue you will see the pathway to get to where you are. Now, that word pathway is something that we've never, as Frisk, have used when talking about Infinite Campus, but in the way Infinite Campus is now designed, it is incredibly important for us to understand that this is what we're looking at, as we're looking at the pathway of how you're getting to things. So if you want to look at what you have on your full account, if you go to the pathway and go to the very beginning and go to My Account, it will show you here the things that you have. Like, these are some of the things that you're able to do in your own Infinite Campus, like for yourself, like your account of Infinite Campus. These are the things that you have. So we're going to go back and we're going to jump into looking at different things with Infinite Campus. So again, across the top, you also have a search bar where you can search for multiple things. You can search for, and again, this is going to change depending on what your district gives you access and gives you rights to. On the top, you can search for different things. The vast majority of people have the student search, and this is how you find students. So you just type in a last name of a student. Going also across the top, you have to also notice that that it gives you your school at the top. When you click on the school, notice that you have year drop down that you have to make sure is correct. You have school that you have to make sure is correct, and you have a calendar within that school that you have to make sure is correct also. So every school, most of the time, coordinators only have access to the school that they are serving, but know that your people at your district level can see every school within the district. But for today, we're going to focus on Polk High School. Then within Polk High School, there could be multiple calendars. We only have one calendar. Those calendars can come into play if the schedule of a school is different. Let's say you have a block scheduling for lunch, and it's during fourth and fifth period, and fourth period is one way, and fifth period is one schedule. Fourth period is longer. One fifth period is longer. So you may have two schedules. This really comes into play at the FRC level, because a lot of time you will see a school calendar and then you'll see a preschool calendar. So you'll see two separate entities there. So you got to make sure you're on the right thing when you're going to put information in Infinite Campus, or nothing is ever going to come out. Nothing is ever going to be able to go where you need it to go. So this is where we're going to look today, and you're going to click Save, and we're going to go back to the main menu, and we're going to we want you to know that you can go there and find anything that you want that you have access to through these different pieces. So if you wanted to find the summary of a student just to see what their address is, you can go down under student information and you can go to summary. Oh, and this is a good teaching point, that if you don't select a student, you will get this bar. You will get this. It won't let you do anything if you don't have a student selected. So we're going to open the student search, and we're just going to type in a name, and we'll pull up a student. So here's the summary page that you look at, and note that it gives you all the pertinent information for the kid. It gives you age, it gives you grade, it gives you birthday, it gives you ethnicity, it gives you parents' names, it gives you quick contact information, it gives you all sorts of information that you are going to need as a coordinator. As you scroll down the screen, you can see that it gives the household that we talked about a minute ago. So here's the household, and here are all the people that are associated with that student in that household. So here's the mother, a brother, another sibling, and themselves. So this is information that you have. Now, I do want to point out that Infinite Campus in itself, in its most base form, Infinite Campus is just a database. Infinite Campus can do amazingly wonderful things. It can give us amazing, wonderful information, but the information that is here is only as good as the people that are putting it in, or it's only as current as the current information that people have put in. So sometimes you may go and look and all the information may not be here. It all may not be connected together. This is a time when we can help our school out by being a connector, by being able to find, hey, they have another sibling, or hey, they have a new phone number, and we can give those things to the school. That way this information can be updated and we can keep, and the school's able to get a hold of the families. So looking at this household, it gives you lots of things. But there are so many things that we can do in Infinite Campus that it would take a long time to find it. So what we're going to do is we're going to suggest that you find on this main menu, instead of going here, we're going to ask that you start putting things in a favorites menu for you, so that you can then have access to the things that you are going to access the most. So to do that, to look at your favorites menu, you'll want to click the little star that is on the menu. And as you can see, we have several things that have already been put on our favorites tab for purposes of this training. But what we're going to do is we want to walk you through of how you would do it yourself. So we're going to go to the search bar, and instead of searching for a student, we're going to search for a tool, because all the things that you use in Infinite Campus, the summary, looking at a schedule, looking at grades, behavior, or looking at Frisk interventions, are all considered tools. All those are tools that we have at our disposal. So what we're going to do is, instead of searching for a name, we're going to search for a type of tool. So we're going to just type in FRYSC. When we search for that tool and it comes up, what it's going to do for us is it's going to give us all of the tools that have FRYSC in the name. So these are all of the basic things that all of us as Frisk that we need access to. Number one, the most paramount one that we have, is the Frisk tab itself. Now, if you go and again look at the top and look at the student, if you look at, you can see the pathway of where it actually is. It's under the student information tab on the main menu. Then it's a subsection under that is, or this one says general, it's under state programs, and then you will find FRYSC. So we will go all the way down till we find state programs, and then there is FRYSC. So it's much simpler to use the tool search, which is what we are going to recommend that all of you do. But to put it on the favorites menu, you will see a star beside the name. You'll see a star out beside where it says FRYSC. You will click the star, and the star will turn blue. It will shade in and turn blue. We found this out doing a training. If you have your screen set to where it's zoomed in a little larger, the star will not be directly beside the name. It will either be on the far right, or it will be directly underneath the name of the tool that you're wanting to look at. So what we're going to recommend that you do as a new coordinator, we're going to recommend that you go in and that you set up your favorites. You get to determine what those are. You get to look at the pieces that you want to have on your favorites. And we're going to recommend that you go in and you go click that little blue star and make them your favorites, and then they will show up on your favorites list on the main menu. And they show up with the most recent favorite on the very bottom. But if you don't like that, let's say you want the Frisk tab more often, you can actually click it. Well, there is a way that you can edit those and move them where you want them to be on the list. But with that, we're going to begin looking at the actual interventions that we have themselves, and we're going to turn it over to Heather.
Right. Thank you, Russell, for all that information. So we, as Frisk, have two ways that we enter interventions for students. We have individual interventions, and we also have group programs. So when you think about individual interventions, you want to think about those as reactive in nature. So a student comes to you or a parent comes to you and you provide a service. You're being reactive in nature. Those are your individual interventions that you're going to be documenting. When you have a group program, that's something that is pre-planned, an activity or a strategy that you're going to be doing with your students and families. You're pre-planning it in advance, would be considered a group program. So we are going to go in here and add an intervention for Cameron's. And when we do that, you will be on your Frisk tab that you favorited. You're going to search for the student, as Russell showed you before, and you're going to click on Add Intervention in the left-hand corner. And whenever you get to this screen, this is where you're going to document all of the information for that intervention. You'll put the start date as the day you're providing the intervention, and also the end date as well as that same day that you provided the service. And then you're going to click on the intervention. Is it for the student and parent, or just the student or just the parent? So if you do provide a service for just the parent and not the student, you will still document that intervention through the student in Infinite Campus, but you're only going to click parent when you need to do that. Also, you're going to put the referred by. Who was this student or family referred by? Were they referred by you? Were they referred by the principal? Did they self-refer themselves? So we're going to click on referred by, and we're going to choose that a teacher referred the student to the Frisk Center. And then also, what is the mode of intervention on the service? Did the student come into your office? Did this happen on the school grounds? Or was it through a telephone call or a home visit? However many modes of intervention you had for that service, you're going to click all that apply. So for this one, we're just going to click that it was in office. But if for some reason you made a phone call as well or sent an email, you can click more than one. And then under the select if yes, more than likely you're not going to be using these tabs, result of a behavior issue, parent guardian contacted. Most of the time you're not going to use a lot of those. You can put parent or guardian contacted if you did contact the parent. If not, you're just going to leave that area blank. And then we also have the referral location where you referred this student or this family. And everyone's list is going to look different across the state. So this is where you, as the coordinator, can go to your Infinite Campus district personnel and request that a referral location be entered, because maybe you have a specific business or a specific church that helps your center. So these are actually entered in by your Infinite Campus personnel. So we're going to just pick a couple of different referrals. We're going to pick the church. We're going to refer this child to a local church. And then if you did not have a second referral location, you can leave it blank. But if you have a second one, you can pick that. And then we're going to go down and pick what is it that we actually did for this student. So we're going to say that this is a new student that came to your school, the second week of school, and that they needed some school supplies. So you can click on academic support, and you can go down and view school supplies and pick on that. And so you can click as many interventions that you did for that one student at a time. We're also going to go under health. We can say under health, they needed a dental referral. They hadn't been to the dentist in a long time, and we're going to refer them to a local dentist. And then also for the basic needs, we'll go there, and since we had the church referral, we're going to refer them to the church for food assistance. And so again, you can click as many interventions as you want for that student that you did. And if you provided a service for this student later in the day or the next day, you're going to go back and start that process all over again. Okay, so if you see this student the very next day, you'll go in and do this exact same process for that student depending on what that child needed. Also, we get this question asked a lot. If you had two siblings come in, do you just enter at one time? You have to enter your interventions for each student. So you cannot enter it for siblings at the same time. You'll do the same process per sibling. And again, if you provided an intervention for just the parent, you have to log it through the student, but you would just click on parent. And we also know that not every intervention is listed under the services where Russell was clicking on academic support, health, and basic needs. Like Russell was saying earlier, we need the data to be verifiable and consistent. And so a lot of times we get requests to add things to Infinite Campus. That is a very long process. It could take up to a year or two to get those things added. But what's good for coordinators in the eastern part of the state may not be what's needed in the western part of the state. So we have to keep it very neutral. And so if there is something that you provide a student or family and it's not listed, we just ask that you use your best judgment when doing that. The description section is a really good, useful area that you can use when providing an intervention. That's kind of like your notes section where you can add notes and things that you maybe want to remember for this family, but we do ask that you keep it simple, concise, and to the point. You do not want to add your feelings. You would not want to put, in the notes something personal, because Infinite Campus records are part of the student's school records. And so a parent can request these at any time. DCBS can request these at any time. So you just want to keep your notes concise, simple, to the point, and leave the feelings and emotion out of it. And so you can see Russell is typing in some notes there. And this is for you to be able to see when you go back and need to see what you provided for this student. So that is how you enter your individual interventions. Once you're done, you will click Save. And then you can also see after you save the intervention, they will be listed at the top of the screen where Russell had it. You'll be able to go back and look at all the individual interventions that have been provided for that student. So Russell just showed you under the individual intervention what we just added. That's where you can see the date. And you can also, if you need to go back and edit anything, you can click on it and go back and edit if needed. But now you can see what you provided. So now we are going to move on to our group programs. And we are going to, so you can see under Russell's favorites, he has Frisk Group Program Setup. So you want to make sure that you favorite that so it's already in your list. And you will go ahead and click on that, and then you're at the Frisk Group Program Setup page. So remember, these are pre-planned activities that you're doing within your school and the center. So we are going to create a new program. You have vision screenings coming up for your school. We're going to click on New. You will go to the program title and hit Vision Screenings, Fall of 2025. It's a really good idea to put the date or the year for your program, because as you get into the position and you're there a lot longer, you'll see that you've done 10 vision screenings. So keeping it at 2024, 2025 to help you stay organized. And then we're going to go to the program category, and vision screenings are going to fall under health. And you'll see, again, there's lots of different program categories. If there's something that's not there for you, just, again, use your best judgment. Same for individual interventions. If something's not there, just use your best judgment and go with the options that are closest to what you're doing. So we've picked on health with vision screenings. The program is for students, but we're also going to click on parents because we had to get parent permission for them to participate. And then the time frame, they took place during the school day. And you'll see a lot of times you'll be choosing after school, on the weekend, things that you're doing within the center. And then today's date, and you can just click on that. The calendar will come up for you. And you can automatically click on it, and it will automatically fill. So we also had a partner agency that came in to help us. We're going to choose a partner that we had some volunteers that came in. We had it looks like the American Health Education Council. We had some volunteers come in there to help us with our vision screenings. So this next part's really important because it's important for you to document your total volunteer hours for your center. You'll have to report your in-kind information at the end of the school year. But our vision screenings took place one time. So when you see that word meetings, it's talking about how many times did this program take place. It took place one time. If for some reason you were having an after-school program and it took place Monday through Friday, you did it 5 days, you would put a number 5 there. But our total program hours, it was 4 hours. We had our volunteers come in. We did vision screenings from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m., and we had 4 volunteers. So as well, so we had 4 volunteers come in. The program was 4 hours, so 4 times 4 is 16. So that's a total of 16 volunteer hours. So you want to make sure that you document all that. So at the end of the year, you can run a report and you'll be able to report back your in-kind for volunteer hours. And so now we're going to save our program that we just created. So we tell coordinators a lot of times on breaks or during the summer, this is when you can just go in and create your group programs. You don't have to connect students to it yet, but if you have a plan for your school year and you know what all you're going to be doing, you can go in and start creating those programs and save them. Okay, we are going to connect our students to the vision screenings. So now we have to go to our Frisk Group Program Participation Wizard. Again, that's another item that you're going to want to favorite. So we're going to look for our program that we created, since you've already created it. Under the Select Frisk Group Program, and we've chosen our vision screenings for 2025, and we only provided our vision screenings for 9th grade students. So we're going to click on the 9th grade. And then those other numbers, you have 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade. For you elementary folks, you're going to see some 98s, 99s. Those are your preschool students. And then you have 0 for kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. So if for some reason we had provided the vision screenings for all students, we would have clicked on Select All Grades. But since we only provided it for one grade, we're going to just click on 9th grade. So this I would say is the easiest way for you to run your programs. Russell's going to show you how to do ad hocs here in just a minute. But this is whenever you've done an assembly for the school. Maybe you were involved in Veterans Day and the center was very involved. All the students participated. You create your program and run the program. So Russell's going to go ahead and hit run, and it'll show you how many 9th graders were involved in the vision screenings. 214 students have now been connected to the vision screenings. And when you go back and you look at your students, or you're searching for a student, it's going to show under group programs on the Frisk tab everything that student's been involved in. I'd also like to mention that whenever you're creating a group program, if you can keep in mind your title, to keep it at something that the reader, for example, would understand what it is. So if you have something called Cougar Club, well, the outside reader or person looking at your Infinite Campus may not know what Cougar Club is. So you could put Cougar Club on there, but then to the side of it, put Running Club or something like that. If you can be specific with your title so we know what activity you're doing.
Okay, thank you, Heather. We are going to look at creating an ad hoc now, and then we're going to look at connecting that ad hoc to another Frisk group program. So to find the ad hoc, you'll go back to the main menu, and you will have to search for and look for the filter designer. This is what you're looking for, is the filter designer. Now, to find the filter designer, you will go to, on the main menu, you'll go to reporting, then you'll go to ad hoc reporting, and you will find filter designer. That's where it will be located. And remember to come back once you find it, to come back and click the blue star, because this is something that is very beneficial for you as a coordinator. I do want, before we move further, I do have to preface all of this by saying some districts require additional training from the district before you are able to access the filter designer. If that is the case, please contact your district Infinite Campus personnel, and they will direct you on how to go and how to do what it is that you need to do. So for our purposes, looking at the filter designer, there are lots of things that you can do with the filter designer. But that is a completely another training that we will not get into today. For our purposes, we are going to just use the selection editor. So what you will do is you will go under filter type and you will click selection editor and you will click student. Then you will create. When you create your program, you go in and you will have to give your program a name. So we're going to call this our backpack club, which, again, as Heather said just a moment ago, you have to know what that is. And we may not know what that is, so you can say weekend food. That way we would know kind of what it is. Then you can go in and you need to give it a description. So so we're giving it to food given to students who are in need of food while school is not in session. This is the short description, which works great for most things, works great most of the time. And it only lets you put in 140 characters. So it's not a whole lot of information. If you have something that you feel like needs a much longer description, you can click the plus button and it will open up a field here big enough for 1,000 characters. So you get to add way more information than what you had before. Most coordinators just use the short description, but some things warrant going to the deeper thing. So what you want to do is, looking at this designer, you're going to actually select the students that are involved in the program. So this is a pre-programmed out event. It's something that you know the kids that are going to be using this service, and you will just select them. So you will go in and you will highlight a name and you will click the over button. I forgot in the title, make sure again to give it a date. Make sure to give it a date, and that'll come into play in just a moment. So we're looking and we're going to see what we're going to just pull kids over. So again, you highlight the student's name and you push the over button and it'll pull them into what we have. Now you can also hold the control button or you can hold the shift button and take a whole group of students over. It'll highlight multiple students. Or you can select a student and then hold the control button and take which students you want out of a group and pull them over. Now, I know that when you're in your center and you're putting things in and you're looking at a list of kids, you're going to be in the middle of doing this and some kids are going to come in and need something. You're going to have to get up and go and you're going to forget where you were and, things like that happen. You're going to forget which kid you were on and you come back and you say, oh, was I on Chloe? Well, I'm going to go pick Chloe. And I've put Chloe there and I go to put her over and it doesn't do anything because she's already in the program. So once you put somebody in the program over here, it won't let you add the same student multiple times. So with this, you also know that these are all in the system alphabetically by grade. So you can see on the list here, these are all ninth graders and they're alphabetically in. If you scroll down, you will then go to your sophomores. So you'll find a group of sophomores and you will put them in. You'll find your sophomores, put them in. You will find your freshmen and put them in as well. You go down, you'll move all the way down to your seniors. You'll put those students in also. So you have your whole list of kids. It's very important that if you're doing something where you're going to have to use a filter designer on your sign-in sheets, make sure to include a space where they put their grade because it is much simpler to find them by grade. But another piece of information that you have is you also have this search bar that you can look at. So when you click in the search bar, you can start typing a name. And as you start typing a name, the first letter, it starts automatically decreasing the number of kids that are in your school until it gets down to where you may only have one name left. Right? The search feature is very, very valuable for you as a coordinator. It's going to be a tremendous time saver when you can start typing in a last name and it'll bring up that name of student. So what we have is we have our list of kids. We have our list of students here, and we're going to go to the bottom. We're going to save it. But the question becomes, where do you save it? There's two options. You can save it to a user account, which a user account would be to you in particular, for you as yourself. Now, that's going to be the user account that you're going to have, and you are the only person that has access to the user account. But there's another option. You also have, and most people do the user account. Most people save things only to themselves. But there's another option. So you have user groups. So a lot of times what you will see is if you click on the Frisk user group, it'll be people in your district that are associated with Frisk. So let's say you're working on a big group community-wide project and you want to put the kids in Infinite Campus. Well, if you create one group, everybody has access to it to add their students and can see the list of kids. So those come very few and far between. Like I said, most people just use the user account. So we're going to save this to our own account. Click save. And the screen changed. So we're assuming that everything's saved. So now we're going to go to return to list. When we return to list, you can see all of your saved filters here on the left. Here's the one we just put in. Now, with this list, you can do a few other things with it. You can go in and you can click on it and highlight it, and you can click edit. and it will give you, and it'll bring you back to your thing. So if you need to take a student out, put a new student in, you can be updating this list. You don't have to create the same list over and over and over. You can just update the one that you have. Now we're going to return back to the list and look at a couple other things. Also, after you can edit and do those things, we can look in and you can also click on the test feature. So if you click test, it will then bring up a list of students that you can now manipulate. So you can change it. You can do it by student or by grade. You can do it by student last name and by grade. You can do it, however you would like to do it. You have full ability to change this list. The best feature for me, though, about the test is that you can export this information to an Excel document. So if you click and open the file, you will see now you have an Excel document of students that you're able to work with. And you can then go in. It always brings up their student number. Most of the time, that's a column you can just delete. But it brings up something here to where now you have a list you can manipulate. You can change it to fit your purposes. You can add other things to it. Maybe this is going to be how you're taking kids on a trip. And this is a way you can go in and check to make sure the kids are there. You can check them in, check them out, all that kind of information. But it gives you your list of students. So we're going to go back and we're going to look at linking one of these filter designed groups to a group program. So we will again go back to the group program report, or not group, to the group program setup, not the report, the setup, and we're going to create a new one. So now we're going to do Backpack Club, week of February 14. Now, I can't spell, so we'll change that. It gives you, if you misspell things, it gives it to you there. Then we're going to go in, and weekend food bags is something that we give under health. It's actually listed as backpack program. It is for students. We're going to give it out during the school day. We're going to say that the date is, by our purposes, we're going to put in the date that we run this. For this program, we are partnering with the Berea, the Salvation Army. We're going to partner with the Salvation Army to give us, who's going to give us the food. This is one meeting. It only lasts for, we'll say, an hour, but there were 10 volunteers that helped put all these bags together. So we can go in and say that we had 10 hours of volunteer time. So we have our program set up. We will go in and click Save. We will then go back to the participation wizard, as Heather did a moment ago. We will go in and we will find our program. So here is Backpack Program, week of February 14th. It gives us all of our information. Now, instead of selecting a particular grade to give it to, you go in and you will click the button that says Use Ad Hoc Filter. And then you will find your filter that you're looking for. So you're looking for Backpack Club, Weekend Food 2025. You'll click Run. Now, only those students that were involved in the program are able to be ran. Now, let's say I've been working on putting things in Infinite Campus, and again, I get up and walk away and I'm like, oh, I forgot, did I put that one in or not? When you come back and you go through and you select everything again and you click Run, it will say 0 students. You can't duplicate your work. It won't let you duplicate the same thing. So if you roll something and it says 0 students are enrolled, more than likely you've already put that information in, where those students are. So a way again to check to make sure, you will go back to the Frisk tab. And Madison was one of our students, so we'll go in and look, and we'll look under where it says Polk High. Go click, and you'll see there's academic support. The thing should, everything that's there should be part of this stuff. So everything should be there. And we will back out, and we will then go from looking at how to connect those students there to looking at the different types of reporting that we're able to do. Okay, so now that we've looked at both types of interventions that you can put in, we're going to look at the state reports. When we're looking at the state reports, know that when you do group program reports, that if a student isn't enrolled or isn't in the building that day, if they're absent that day, Infinite Campus will not pull them to be a part of your group. That helps us with that consistent, verifiable data that we talked about earlier. So that's a service that Infinite Campus does for you. Again, when a student is not enrolled not present that day, they won't be enrolled in one of the group programs that you may have. So looking at the reports that you're able to run, the first is the state report. It's the Frisk State Report. So again, going there, let's look at the pathway to get there when you're going to find it. On the main menu, you will go to Reporting, then you will find Kentucky State Reporting, and then the Frisk State Report. This state report can be ran for a given time frame that you have. You can run this monthly. We do ask that you run it at the end of the year, but if you would like to run this information to see where you are monthly, you can do that by checking the date range at the top of the screen. So you can check from year to year. You can run it to the current date, or you can go in and select the previous month, or you can select, whatever date you would like to see have everything be ran by. So again, we're going to go in and we're going to select the current day is how long we're going to run the report for. Now, when you look at running the report, the rest of this information, you can just leave how you would like to leave it exactly as it is, because it's not going to affect many things for you. You can go in and you have to select your center and then select your school or schools that you are associated with. Now, for one particular thing, if you are a center that serves multiple schools, you can choose how your report comes to you. You can do it either as a combined total, where it gives you all the information specifically for your center, like for both schools, or you can select it by school. So you can select Frisk Interventions by school to see kind of how the schools compare to one another. Most people just select it combined. So that's what it defaults with. So most of the time we just tell everybody to leave it alone. So what you're going to do is, once you have your parameters set for what it is that you want, you'll click Generate Extract. It will then bring up a PDF that you can click on. And this is the PDF that it will give you. It'll show you all of your home visits you put in, all of your visits that have came into your office, all the telephone calls you've made, emails, texts that you've sent that you put in. This next section is specifically about group programming. And it talks about how many programs you've done during school, after school, summer break, on the weekend, when you do those things. We're going to look at the bottom, and we're going to talk about something that does kind of confuse people sometimes. You'll see the terms unduplicated and duplicated. Remember, early in the thing, we talked about we're doing interventions and not people. This is where that's going to come into play. We have, so far during this year, it says that we have had 758 unduplicated contacts with students. What that means is the unduplicated is the number of interventions that you have done or no, is the number of students that you've come in contact with. I'm sorry, the unduplicated is the specific number of students that you've worked with. The duplicated contact is the amount of interventions that you have done. So unduplicated is the number of people. So you have met with 758 students. At some point, you've made contact with 758 kids and 214 parents. But of those, you have provided almost 3,000 interventions to those 758 students. Most of the time, when people look at numbers, they look at the duplicated number and not the unduplicated number. We look at the duplicated number, because that's the number of times that you have helped. That's the number of interventions that you have given to a student and to a family. Okay, as you scroll down through the report, you can see the times, and again, you'll see unduplicated and duplicated appear. You'll see how many times you have given each of these categories, like all the things that you've done within each category. And you'll scroll all the way down, and you'll see that for everything. What we do want to make note of here is when you're looking at this report, we do not expect you to have a number in every single one of these spaces. There are going to be spaces that you will never have, that you may never work with. As an example, if you go down to legal, you may work your entire career and you may never have to do court case and support. You may never have to work with that. You may never have to work with and you may never go to a family team meeting. So those things may have these dashes for your entire career. That's okay. It's okay not to have every blank field on this document. It simply works that there are things that you may never do, especially for all of our YSC coordinators. When you go up and look at academic support, you may never work with early childhood care. It's not in your grant. You may never see that happen, but it shows up on the report. On the flip side, with our FRC people, you may go down and see the career exploration. You may at no point ever work with job mentoring. It's not in your grant. We would never expect you to have something in those blanks. Just know that there are times where things are going to be blank, and know that that is okay. So the second report that we're going to look at is we're going to look at the group program report. So here you'll see it's the Frisk group program report. You will go in, and again, you have your date range that you can go in and look and see where things are. You will just go in and select your center, and you will generate the extract. It will again bring you another PDF that you can open up, and it gives you a list of all of the group programs that you have put in throughout the year. And at the bottom, you will see a total count. Here's your duplicated contacts. It only gives the intervention numbers. It doesn't give an unduplicated on this report. It only gives the amount of interventions given. And you will see that here it gives you both, and it gives you students, and it gives you parents, and then it gives you a connected, it gives you two combined. It gives you a total contact count. Now, Heather was talking a moment ago why it was so important to put in and know volunteer hours when you're putting those group programs in. It will total up the amount of hours that you have at the end of the year. You'll find throughout your Frisk career, throughout many times, people will come in and ask, how many volunteer hours have we had this month? Or how many have we had? If you're doing a good job keeping up with it on Infinite Campus, it will total that number for you, and it'll give it to you there. This also will play an important role for you at the end of the year when we look at our in-kind donations. we can make sure that we're getting our in-kind donation of time by multiplying our number of volunteer hours by what our national rate is at that time. So you'll be able to get your in-kind time donation by using Infinite Campus as well. So there's one final report that we're going to look at. That final report, to me, is the most beneficial report for a coordinator. It is still relatively new, and a lot of districts don't even know that it's there. So this is the Frisk Individual Intervention Rosters Report. If you do not have access to this, this is something that would please ask your district to grant you access to because of what information it's able to give you. This is a great report for a coordinator use only. If you look at the state report or if you look at the group program report, either one of those are great information to give to your advisory council. They're great to share with your SBDM because it literally just gives you a number of what the center is doing. The individual intervention roster report will give you names of students. So what you do is you will go in and again, you have your date range of what time frame you're looking at. You're again going to select your center and you're going to go to the bottom and click Generate Extract. This will give you another PDF that you can open, but what it does is it takes all of those things that are on the state report. We see the intervention. We see, oh, we've given 3 students school supplies. The individual intervention roster report gives you the names of those 3 students. It tells you which students you have given things to. This is, to me, an incredibly valuable piece of information for coordinators. This is not a report to share with anybody else outside of your office. This is for confidentiality reasons. This is something that you'll only want to use with you or any staff you may have in the center, or possibly your principal or a district contact. This is not just for the general public to be able to see. And you go through this roster report, and it takes all those individual interventions and it breaks them down and gives you a report of who the people are to match up to those numbers that you have. So with looking at the reports, we're going to go back to the Infinite Campus. We're going to go back to the main screen of Infinite Campus, and Heather is going to talk to you about some resources.
Thank you, Russell. I really enjoy all of the reports. These are great reports, like Russell mentioned, about sharing with your advisory council, sharing with your site base, sharing with your administrators. Also on your group program report, if you see anything in red on your group program report, of course, the one that Russell showed you, everything is complete. But if anything below is in red, if, for example, under academic support, academic assembly, and presenter, if that was in red and had all dashes, then that means you have not connected students. So we see that a lot in reports because the division runs Infinite Campus reports randomly from centers. And so if your RPMCs that you have several that are in red, we know that you've created the program as a new program, but maybe you haven't had the program yet or you haven't connected students to it. With that being said, also on the state report showing the different categories, we have some great resources on our division website. We have something called field definitions. So that field definitions document on the division website is going to explain to you some of those categories to help you decide which one best fits your situation. So it will actually go through academic support. It will go through basic needs. It will go through health. So all of those options that you have, it kind of gives a definition for you so you can figure out which option to pick. So I would write down field definitions and be sure to go to the division website and pull that report. We also have lots of resources on the Frisk Training Hub that our training branch has created. If you are a more step-by-step, you want to read instructions on how to use Infinite Campus, we have those available for you. We have lots of videos available for you, short videos on individual intervention, short videos on how to do a group program, how to run your state reports. So if you need to go back and just focus on one section, you can do that. So you'll want to favorite the Frisk Training Hub and then also favorite the division website because we have many resources out there for coordinators who learn in different styles. Thank you for your time today. We will be having a question and answer session for you. So as you've gone through this presentation and training, if you've been writing questions down, we will have a live Q&A for you where Russell and I can assist your questions. Thank you.